My father would introduce my sister Lena to everyone as our future lawyer. When I was there too, I became just her sister. No name mentioned, no identity given. I thought maybe I was being too sensitive about it. Then came Lena's high school graduation party. The whole family dressed up and smiled for photos. My name wasn't even written on the celebration banner. During his speech, my dad called Lena my one and only star, while I stood just 3 feet away from him. After that moment, I stopped fighting back. I stopped asking why they never shared news about my college acceptance. I stopped wondering why they never visited me. I stopped questioning why every holiday card showed family photos without me in them. I remember looking at one Christmas card they sent out. Everyone wore matching red outfits, even the family dog. Where I used to stand in previous photos, now Lena stood in the center, holding the dog, with our parents on both sides. They looked like the perfect small family. They didn't just cut me out of the photo. They took a completely new picture without me. Nobody announced that I was no longer part of the family. Nobody made any official statements. But I learned how people can disappear from families without any funeral or ceremony. I discovered how someone can be erased in a polite, quiet way. My name is Isa Morgan. According to my father, I don't exist anymore. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning. It didn't come from my family, which wasn't surprising. The message came from the alumni office at Eastern University, the same school where both Lena and I studied, though at different times in our lives. The subject line read, "You're invited," with the subtitle about graduation highlights for the class of 2025. I almost deleted it right away. I usually ignore emails with colorful headers and celebration graphics. But something in the preview text caught my attention. The preview mentioned a special guest keynote speaker who would be revealed at the ceremony. The word, investor, made me curious, so I opened the email. I scrolled past photos of smiling students, donation requests, and parking information until I found what made my heart skip. There was a blurred silhouette with the caption, CEO of one of the fastest-growing rural medical technology startups in North America. Below it said, unconfirmed but heavily rumored to be announced at ceremony. My heart didn't know whether to beat faster or stop completely. Nobody knew I was the person behind that company. I had built it quietly, working behind a fake name and using private funding and medical partnerships. I never wanted public recognition or fame. I just wanted to create distance between my past and my future. Until that moment. A few hours later, another email appeared in my inbox. This one wasn't meant for me at all. It was a chain of forwarded messages between my aunt and other family members. The emails contained photos of Lena's graduation cap and gown, catering menus, and seating arrangements for her ceremony. Then I saw one line from my father that made my blood run cold. Make sure Isa doesn't hear about this graduation. The last thing we need is her causing problems on Lena's special day. The word problems hurt more than any direct insult ever could. They didn't just forget about me. They actively planned events while making sure I wouldn't know about them. For the first time in years, I didn't feel sad about their treatment. Instead, I felt something much colder and sharper. I wasn't planning to crash Lena's graduation ceremony. No, I had a much better idea. I was going to completely own the building right next to hers. I sat alone in my dark apartment that night. No lights on, no music playing, just the quiet hum of my refrigerator and the soft glow from my laptop screen. Their cruel words kept repeating in my mind like background noise. Make sure Isa doesn't find out. She'll ruin everything. She always finds ways to make situations about herself. And slowly, over many years, I had started believing their version of me. Not all at once like a lightning strike, but gradually, like water wearing away stone. Maybe they were right about me. Maybe I was the problem in the family. I thought about that Christmas when I decided not to come home. I remembered all the birthday celebrations I let pass without contact. I thought about all the unanswered text messages from cousins who didn't know what to say to me. I also thought about how I never told anyone about the successful company I had created. I had filed every legal document under a false name just to avoid being connected back to my family. Maybe that choice was selfish. Or maybe it was necessary self-protection. Even now, I wasn't completely sure. I stared at my reflection in the black laptop screen. I saw tired eyes, messy hair in a half ponytail, and a hoodie with my startup company logo. Nobody would recognize this woman as the girl they once called a dropout. The girl who walked away from everything. Nobody had ever seen me the way I wanted to be seen. The next morning, I opened my laptop and logged into our investor website portal. There it was, the confirmation I had been waiting for. Eastern University commencement ceremony. Keynote speaking slot confirmed. Speaker name to be announced later. I moved my cursor over the box labeled display name and typed 3 simple words. Then I clicked save. The name now read Isa Morgan, CEO. The change started with a small sound from my kitchen drawer. I wasn't looking for anything specific, maybe just a takeout menu or some batteries. But my hand touched a piece of paper. I pulled out a crumpled lunch receipt from 5 years ago. The paper was faded and bent at the corners. The ink had almost completely disappeared, but I immediately recognized the handwriting on the back. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. It was written in my mother's careful script. She used to leave little motivational notes like this everywhere. On bathroom mirrors, inside my textbooks, folded into my coat pockets during cold winter exam periods. My mother died when I was 19 years old. She never got to see what I would eventually build. She never witnessed my rise to success. But finding that sentence felt like perfect timing, as if she had planned for me to discover it at exactly this moment. That same day, I received a message from Owen, my Chief Technology Officer. Investor Summit is confirmed and locked in. Same campus, same weekend as the graduation. Are you planning to attend? I stared at his message for a long time. Then I remembered something important. Lena's graduation ceremony would take place directly across the campus courtyard from our Investor Summit. Same university, same date, same exact time. It felt like poetry, like someone had drawn a perfect circle and invited me to step inside it. I opened 2 browser tabs on my computer. One showed the summit schedule and agenda. The other displayed Eastern University's graduation ticket purchasing portal. Under the guest names section, I entered a fake name and reserved 1 front row seat. I didn't plan to give any speeches at the graduation. I didn't plan to cause any dramatic scenes. I simply wanted to watch them. Not her specifically, but all of them. The people who had erased me from their lives. I wasn't trying to reclaim my old place at their family table. I was going to own the entire building next door to them. The university confirmation email arrived at exactly 2:07 in the morning. My seat at the Investor Summit was confirmed. My front row ticket for the graduation was confirmed. 2 completely separate worlds, 1 campus, 1 weekend. And I would have access to both events. I didn't use my real name on the graduation ticket, just my initials with a slightly different last name. I didn't want attention or recognition yet. I wanted to be close enough to observe. I wanted to see my father's face when he realized that the ghost he thought he had buried could still walk into rooms unannounced. On the morning of my trip, I packed very light. One professional blazer, one black dress, and a pair of low heels I hadn't worn in years. They were the same shoes I wore when I pitched my startup idea to a panel of investors who never even asked if I had finished college. Spoiler alert, I hadn't finished my degree. But I had solid numbers, a clear business plan, and a compelling reason for my company to exist. During the train ride to Eastern University, I passed the old science building where I used to sleep between classes. It was the same building where Lena once told her friends that I was just a dropout who followed her around campus. Now my name was quietly circulating in the summit program materials. When I arrived at the graduation ceremony, the usher at the entrance gate scanned my ticket and smiled warmly. This seat was requested very early in the process. Reserved front row placement. Looks like someone really wanted you to have the best view possible. I smiled back at her. I guess someone did want me here. I sat down in the third seat from the aisle. The warm sun hit the back of my neck as graduating students filed into their designated areas. Nobody noticed me sitting there. Not yet. But I was carefully observing everyone around me. Behind me, I could hear the familiar sound of my father's voice. It was low and commanding as he spoke to someone who appeared to be security personnel. His tone wasn't raised or angry, but it carried that sharp, controlled quality he used when he was about to have someone removed without ever raising his voice or his hand. I kept my head down and forward. He didn't look directly at me, but I could see him scanning the rows of seated guests with that same disappointed expression he used on me the day I left home for good. An usher walked over to my section. "Ma'am, can I please confirm your name for our official seating log?" I handed her my ticket without saying anything. She nodded, smiled politely, and moved on to the next person. 2 rows ahead of me, my sister sat with the other graduating students. Her cap was perfectly positioned and her gown was pressed to perfection. She looked almost exactly the same as I remembered, maybe slightly colder and more polished. But I recognized that facial expression she was wearing. It was the look she always had when she was performing for an audience. She had always been naturally good at playing whatever part was expected of her. A professor walked past my row, stopped, and glanced at me twice. Then he did a complete double take. "Wait," he whispered quietly. "You're Isa Morgan from Metfair, right?" I didn't answer his question directly, just gave him a light smile. "I read your published case study on telemedicine infrastructure development." "Absolutely brilliant work," he said, speaking just loud enough for 2 people in the row behind me to turn their heads and look. Across the campus courtyard, university banners fluttered in the breeze. The loudspeaker system clicked on with feedback. The graduation ceremony was about to officially begin. Behind me, my father spoke again, this time with more volume. "She's not supposed to be here at all. Her name is not on any approved guest list." I didn't flinch or turn around. Let him look around anxiously. Let him squint and become frustrated and search every face in the crowd. Because the girl he thought he had successfully erased from existence didn't exist anymore. Only the confident woman sitting in the front row existed now. And very soon, the entire school would know her name and her accomplishments. The Investor Summit was scheduled to begin exactly 40 minutes after the graduation ceremony ended. Across the courtyard, inside the modern glass auditorium, my company's name was already being displayed on rotating digital banners. Metfair Health, closing keynote presentation, how one startup quietly changed everything. I slipped away from my seat during the 3rd graduation speech, just as Lena's department head approached the podium. My chair was empty before my father could realize that I had been sitting directly in front of him the entire time. Backstage at the summit, my assistant handed me the final presentation slide deck. "Everything is set up and ready. They still don't know the CEO's identity. Even the university dean thinks the speaker is some reclusive Harvard Business School graduate. I nodded while flipping through the presentation slides. The data was solid, the metrics were impressive, and the projections were realistic. But something felt incomplete. I opened the computer file and moved my cursor to the final slide. The closing screen simply said, "Thank you," in plain, safe, forgettable text. I deleted those words and typed a new title, ISA Morgan, Eastern University, Class of Never. Then underneath, in smaller text, "You erased me, so I built something permanent." My assistant glanced over my shoulder and blinked in surprise. "That's incredibly bold." "It's honest," I replied. She didn't argue with my decision. I took one final look at my reflection in the computer screen. My hair was tied back neatly, I wore no makeup, just a simple black blazer and the name they had tried so hard to silence. Outside the auditorium, I could hear applause. The graduation ceremony must have just ended. Inside our venue, someone was introducing the keynote speaker. "Please welcome the founder and CEO of Medfear Health." Somewhere in that same moment, while cameras flashed and heads turned toward the stage, Lena's professor leaned over and whispered something to her. Her eyes went wide with shock. And I walked confidently out into the bright stage lights. The lights didn't feel hot against my skin. The stage didn't feel intimidatingly high. I didn't feel small or insignificant. I stepped into the spotlight without any prepared script in my hands. Just my name, finally my real name, displayed on the large projector screen behind me in bold white letters. ISA Morgan, CEO, Medfear Health. For a moment, nobody in the audience clapped. Not because they weren't impressed by the introduction, but because they were mentally connecting dots and pieces of information. Whispers started first throughout the room, then mobile phones came out, then the entire audience quietly and breathlessly realized they had been quoting my research work for years without ever knowing who had written it. I cleared my throat and began speaking. I built Medfear because nobody in my family believed I could finish anything important. And they weren't entirely wrong about me. I didn't finish college. I didn't finish Thanksgiving family dinners. I didn't finish being the daughter they wanted me to become. I paused for effect. But I finished building this company. I clicked to advance to the next slide. A detailed map showed our rural health program expansions. Small towns and empty medical clinics were now connected with access to healthcare and technological infrastructure. Another click revealed partner hospitals and the lives we had already changed and improved. Another click showed a grainy photograph of me from 6 years ago, soldering prototype wires in my college dormitory hallway. No professional laboratory, no startup funding, no audience applause. Just determination. I looked out over the audience of industry leaders, university trustees, professors, and students. In the third row, seated beside a junior faculty member, was Lena's professor. His eyes widened in recognition. He turned to Lena, who was still wearing her graduation cap and gown, then back to the stage. "You didn't tell me she was your sister," he said, speaking just loud enough for the microphone to pick up his voice. Lena became visibly uncomfortable and tense. He turned back toward the stage and called out, "Excellent work, CEO." That was the defining moment. Not the applause that followed afterward. Not the standing ovation from the crowd. Not even the flood of emails I would receive later that night from people who had previously ignored me completely. It was that one genuine compliment from the one person whose approval Lena had desperately wanted. The one moment she couldn't control or manipulate. The one sentence of praise that didn't belong to her. I didn't look directly at her during this exchange, but I knew she was watching everything unfold. And I knew my father was somewhere behind her, absolutely furious. I didn't need to say a single word to either of them because the truth had already spoken for itself. And this time, the truth had a microphone and an audience. I left the building through the back entrance. No press interviews, no photo opportunities, just the echo of sustained applause still vibrating in the glass panels behind me. I didn't wait around for congratulations or handshakes. I didn't stay for the networking reception afterward. I didn't need any of that validation because I had already accomplished what I came to do. By the time I reached my hotel lobby, my phone was buzzing constantly. 37 unread text messages. 6 missed calls from unknown phone numbers. And 1 message from my cousin that made me smile. Was that really you on that stage? Dad nearly choked on his drink watching the live stream. I didn't reply to her message. I didn't need to respond. A video clip of my keynote moment had already started going viral on social media. The professor's line, "Excellent work, CEO," was being replayed, quoted, and shared everywhere. And in every repost and reshare, there I was, standing confidently at the podium with nothing but my name and the years of silence I had carried. I didn't post anything about the event on my own social media accounts. I didn't tag the university or mention my sister. But I knew they had all seen the coverage because hours later, Lena's graduation celebration photo mysteriously disappeared from my father's Facebook page. It was replaced with some generic inspirational quote about humility. Classic predictable behavior from him. My sister also didn't post her usual, "Thank you to my amazing family," caption that she normally shared after major events. She just posted one heavily filtered photo of herself with no smile and no context or explanation. I didn't reach out to speak with them directly. I didn't try to replace their years of silence with noise or drama. But they definitely heard me loud and clear. In the academic halls where my name had been completely erased. In the family rooms where they never expected me to walk again. In the voices of professors, students, and strangers who now spoke the name they had once tried to bury forever. Isa Morgan, CEO. Not their source of shame. Not their burden to carry. Not their failure to hide. Just the successful woman who walked confidently into their world, stood tall on that stage, and didn't look back with regret.